When we think about studying abroad, what is the first thing that comes to our mind? Do people know that it's absolutely free to study in Germany? For the first time in my life, I wasn't working on weekends. It's technically illegal to work on weekends in France.
Hypothetically, if you're earning around 1 lakh, so your expenses would not reach to that amount and you would be able to save a major chunk of your salary.
The cost of living as per Campus France,
Yeah.
which is government of France, is 7,400 euros. In France, they do not only look at your profile, they look at work ex, they look at holistic profile. Because he's an engineer, he goes abroad, completes a 1-year master and gets a job immediately at Louis Vuitton.
Welcome to another episode of MetaApply's ABC podcast series Abroad and Beyond Campus. Today, I'm so excited to actually host this episode because it's about one of my favorite countries, and that's France. So whenever you hear about France, you think about these fabulous shows and fashions and dresses and croissants, of course, the dishes and the cafes. But it is way more beyond these cafes and restaurants. It's about a country that is a hidden destination for a lot of students who want to aspire and build their career in international education. And today you're going to hear a lot of different stories, a lot of different career opportunities that are present in France, and I'm sure that you're going to learn a lot. So we have called this episode Expectations versus Reality of Studying in France. To talk about all these things, I have a very special guest today, Mr. Prayagraj Tripathi. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So like in our previous discussions, you told me that you have been a student yourself at KEDGE Business School and University.
Yeah, that's true.
So can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a student in a, France university?
Okay, perfect. Great question. First of all, thank you for having me. When I went to France, I was 29. I had already been working in the industry for almost 5 years. So when you take a break after your undergrad and you work in the industry, then you are not just a student, you're going as a working professional, you're an executive, so you come with a different set of experience, skills, and a mindset as well. So compared to my engineering days when I had just passed school, the experience at masters was completely different. If I only talk about my experience at KEDGE, it was probably 2013-14 when I had started my search to study abroad, and this is something that I share with every student so that they could probably learn from my experience on finalizing the colleges and countries. Because a lot of people, what they do, Mahima, is they chase a brand.
Mm-hmm.
For example, they hear from their families or relatives that this is the college that I want to go to. And then they don't care about the program, they don't know about the country, regulations, visa, work permit, everything. So this is why the preparation is very important. So coming to my journey, it was probably 2013-14, I had started my search. I wanted to study abroad because I was already working in India for almost 4 years. So I wanted to go for a 1-year master. So when it comes to 1-year master's programs, I think Europe is the home for 1-year masters, right? So that is when I decided that I would want to go for masters in Europe. Now, Europe has almost 50 countries, 29 in Schengen. So how do you decide, right? For example, if you want to study abroad, you can study abroad in Nepal, Bangladesh, but where would you actually want to go?
Yeah.
Right? Because that is also abroad. So when I wanted to, study in Europe, I chose certain parameters. I made sure that I would be going for a country where education is really important. Their education system is good. Plus, they have a strong economy and liberal visa policies towards Indian students. I wanted to go for international business. So when I started my search for international business, I looked up at the rankings and I found QS ranking, Times Higher Education, Financial Times, and the number 1 ranked program back then, even today, was KEDGE Business School. So I applied to KEDGE Business School. That was the only school that I applied to, got into KEDGE, did there my master's. It was basically 8 months followed by 6 months of paid internship. Experience was great because this was the first time I had moved out of my country. So out of my comfort zone as well, a lot of challenges. So the very first week, I wasn't probably very happy to be abroad because, here in India, you dream about New York, London, Paris, Sydney, and I was in Marseille, right? Probably a lot of Indians wouldn't have heard of this city.
Yeah.
This is the second largest city of France, port city, beautiful experience, but I hadn't heard of it. Yet I took the plunge, and when I went to Marseille, so I didn't really enjoy that much because there was homesickness. I was missing home. I was missing my friends. There were not many Indians back there. So I was not very sure. And then I called up my family, my girlfriend, and I spoke with them, and they motivated me to stay there for at least a week and give it a try. I did that, and after that, there was no point of return. I stayed there for 1 complete year, made a lot of friends. For the first time in my life, and this is something I tell to students as well, I was studying in a classroom of around 30 students with 15 nationalities. So when students ask me this question, Mahima, should I go for masters in India? Should I go for masters abroad? I always tell them, what are your priorities? If you study in India, take the best business school, right?
Yeah.
And let's say there are 200 students in the class. How many of them would be international?
Yeah.
So there is no international learning. There is no diversity. I'm sure there would be exchange students, but I'm talking about full-time students.
Yeah.
And there would be no learning about foreign cultures, languages, customs. So that was a great experience. I had 14 different nationalities in my class. It was a different experience. There's a saying in India, in fact, in the corporates, that your net work is the net worth, right?
Yeah.
So that is the kind of network you grow when you study abroad. So that was my experience in terms of diversity. I learned a new language, which was French. I didn't speak a word of French when I moved to France. When I came back, it was A2 level, still not B1 or B2, but enough to survive there and have a great experience. So overall, it was a wonderful experience.
So like you said that you've actually studied there and you had your own experience over there. So how true is the depiction in Emily in Paris? Because it is one of the most popular shows in India over here.
Yeah.
And all of us are obsessed with it and the life that is shown in Paris. So how true is that?
Okay. So the short answer is that it's partially true and partially not. I've seen first few seasons of Emily in Paris where she says, she arrives to office early and there is nobody. So sometimes you would see this kind of culture. But then it's a very cultural thing. And I'm not saying that the French are laid back or they are very hardworking. It's a developed country. They are amongst the happiest countries as well. But I think it is probably subject to the work-life balance. If you look at other countries as well in happiness index, you'd always find Scandinavia as number 1, right? Finland, Sweden, because they have 5 to 6 hours of daily working hours.
Yeah.
And then they pay a very huge importance to personal life. So similarly in France as well, that culture is there to have a work-life balance. So I see that in America, for example, in India, we have this punch in, punch out system, right? At the office. In America as well. I have friends who are working in the US. Even if they are going for a smoke break or a coffee break, they have to punch in and the time would be calculated. That's not the concept in Europe. Because in Europe, there is a work-life balance. So that's why Emily, coming from a slogging experience to probably Europe and one of the finest countries in the world, France, she would definitely be surprised. But there's nothing to be frowned upon. I think it's a great experience, great culture.
Yeah. So I think like you have, you got paid internship through the KEDGE Business School. So can you talk about the work experience exactly? How was your experience?
Yeah, sure. There is a work-life balance and a lot of Indian students and Indian working professionals are choosing Europe for multiple reasons. Number 1, it's well connected, right? So it gives you access to Schengen. Whether you're in France or Slovakia or Serbia, you have access to Schengen. So you can travel anywhere, you can work anywhere, and once you become the citizen, you can live anywhere. That is the benefit. So travel is definitely one of the reasons. Number 2, it's not very expensive to study or live or work in Europe compared to top destinations like US or UK or Canada. So when we think about studying abroad, what is the first thing that comes to our mind?
The cost of
Cost, right? Whether you're a student or parents, right? 1 crore lagega, 2 crore lagega. That is the kind of fear factor we have, right? But do people know that it's absolutely free to study in Germany at public universities? Do people know that MBA in France can be more affordable than doing an MBA in Noida or Delhi? They are not aware. So that is one of the reasons. In terms of my personal experience for work-life balance, I had a great experience, as I said. For the first time in my life, I wasn't working on weekends, right? So it's technically illegal to work on weekends in France, number 1. Number 2, very flexible working hours, right? So you don't have a fixed 9 to 5 shift. If you're told that you're supposed to do 40 hours, you'll only do 40 hours. Most of the countries in Western Europe, they follow 35 to 36 hours weekly. So once you complete those hours, you are completely off and you can enjoy your personal life.
And what's the pay scale like?
Okay, that's a great question because a lot of students, again, I would give you a perspective. In India, think when they read the newspaper, when our parents read newspaper, they think, when you study abroad, your salary is going to be 1 crore, right? That is the kind of motivation that we have been, pushed with since childhood. For example, Sharma ji ke ladke ka IIT se placement hua 1 crore, aapka kyun nahi hua? Right? That is not the case. For example, when we are talking about that 1 CR salary, where are we talking about? Are we talking about 1 CR in Delhi,
Yeah.
Mumbai, Bangalore? No. We are talking about 1 CR salary in Bay Area, San Francisco. Now, if you could simply Google anyone after this podcast, just go on Google and write low income salary in San Francisco, and you would see 120,000 US dollars. What is 120,000 US dollars as per today's exchange rate in India? It's 1.1 CR. So if you're earning 1 crore, you are under low income group in San Fran. Always look at the facts. So when it comes to salary, to answer your question, in Europe, Germany, France, in fact, the west you go, the salaries would be higher. The north you go, the salaries would be higher. So in Western Europe, salaries range between 30 to 50,000 euro. Again, depending on your experience, kind of jobs you're applying for, kind of experience you have had. But if I only talk about KEDGE Business School, and let's say do your master's program, right? So let's say international business or marketing, the starting salary for a full-time job, as of today's information by the French government, is around 42,800 euros, roughly around 43,000 euros,
Okay.
which is roughly around 40 lakhs in Indian currency. That is the starting salary. Because in France, you'd have seen in India that most of the B schools, they talk about CTC, right? Cost to company.
Yeah.
And most of the Indian students, they believe, or aspirants, they believe that CTC is their in-hand salary, right? At least some of them for sure. So what they do is basically, if you go to a business school website, everybody tells, oh, our CTC is 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs. Top Indian business schools would probably say 25 lakhs, right? So what students do is they divide 25 by 12 and then they're like, oh, I'm going to get 2.1 lakhs per month. No.
No.
Your salary would largely be 1.2, 1.5 max lakhs per month. Because then there would be taxes, then there would be gross salary, there would be incentives, there would be joining bonus, there would be ESOPs, hundreds of things. Not in France.
Yeah.
If your salary is 42, you can actually divide it by 12.
Oh.
Minus taxes, of course.
Okay.